Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Americans, how do you feel about the fact that the stock market has lost $2 trillion in value today? Not great, Bob. I'll always upvote not great, Bob. I'm a millennial. You can't hurt me with financial despair. I feel pretty much the same. Kind of peaceful, life is suffering and our purpose is to accept. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna go for a walk is the most millennial response to all problems, lol. And same. Are millennials, the wartime British of generations. I'm terrified. This was terrific. These puns are terrifiable. If I had any retirement savings, I'd sure be upset. It's never been a better time to just have been poor all along. This is exactly why I'm not stressing. At least, not as much as everyone else. It's way more than the stock market. So many of us in manufacturing have companies that sell to other countries. They are pivoting and freezing orders, going another way. It's really fucked up. The current situation, not companies that are understandably spooked or pissed. This is the part that even the dumbest of dum-dums should be able to grasp. Even if manufacturing comes back to the United States, the people who would buy made in the US shit has been shrunk by such an insane amount. Also, Americans keep talking like they're getting manufacturing jobs back, when that's absolutely not happening regardless of whether or not we get a bunch of new factories. Manufacturing jobs were initially lost to offshoring, but now those jobs no longer exist due to automation. So if we get manufacturing back with these tariffs, we will not see the surge in jobs Fox is promising. Why would a company trust an unstable government and build production in the US? Even Americans won't want to do that for fear of being uncompetitive when someone sane takes office. $2 trillion in value so far. Yup, tariffs are only just announced. They go into effect in the next 2 to 6 days. Me checking my 401k, open mouth smile, right finger downward trend, deadpan face, right finger downward trend, frowning face, right finger downward trend, loudly crying. Def not checking the old 401k today, or any time for the next 5 years. I'll give it a few decades before I check again, here's hoping. Encouraged. The most effective way to rile up voters is to fuck with their actual money. Funniest reply I saw on FB. This should prove to be a temporary flux followed by largely measurable growth. Give it time, evidenced by what happened during Trump's first term and his rather underreported tariffs that caused a 60% surge in the markets in short time following their implementation. Yes. I do think that's what is going to happen here, going with the short-term pain, long-term gain line. Which is a baffling cope, considering they wouldn't allow the same line of logic for Biden, who didn't even start the short-term pain, but Rathet was put at the helm a year into it with Trump having fought every action up to that point. I would agree with you, but the majority of Americans are stupid fucking dumbasses who all they need to be told is that it's Biden's fault and they will still vote Republican no matter what because, as I said before, they're legitimately fucking stupid. Actual conversation with my father-in-law this Christmas. Phil, boy, I can't wait for stocks to finally turn around next year. Me, what do you mean? The Dow is higher now than it's ever been, and it's had record gains the last few months. Phil, what's the Dow? Me, it's the standard measurement of the stock market. I'm pretty boring and only invest in index funds and have been doing very well. Phil, you must be more aggressive than I am. Me, index funds are about as unaggressive as you can get. Phil, my 401k created in 2020. Me, you mean under COVID? During Trump's presidency. Phil, Biden was elected in 2020. Me, but he didn't become president until 2021. Phil, all I know is mine is bad. At this point I didn't want to argue anymore. I have to believe he wasn't really even checking recently. He was just listening to FUD from Fox News and assumed everything was terrible. First time I've seen Republicans vote to raise their own taxes. Someone said Fox News removed the stock ticker from their news chyron, hilarious if true. No mention of stocks on their website this morning either, just an article that said some countries are already crawling back, or some nonsense. For someone who ran on an anti-inflation platform, he sure does love inflating the US dollar. Post-COVID inflation was caused 100% by government deficit spending. Also, we are going to increase the deficit by more than what the last admin did, as well as another $4 trillion for tax cuts. I love the people that claim this and put it all on Biden. First round of stimulus was Trump, and even worse, the PPP loans. They were passed by Republicans to be intentionally unaccountable, and we see that a lot of rich people absolutely made off with them. Being able to say, "I told you so," doesn't make up for the fact that our country is circling the drain. It fucking sucks. I'm honestly impressed by how much damage our feckless government can do in 3 full months. I just keep on reminding myself that it is 1/16 of the way over. He's now, not jokingly, trying to get himself a third round. Just keep that in mind. With the healthcare he can afford, the El Presidente for life might be a thing soon, and that could last a decade or two. What do you expect from someone that has been declared bankrupt 6 times? What could possibly go wrong? He's even bankrupted 4 casinos. Like, how TF do you even manage to do that? He's literally found a way on 4 occasions to make himself the exception to the rule that the house always wins. It was money laundering. I build boats for a living. I've been doing this since the 90s, and tomorrow we expect to be laid off due to a lack of orders. This should be the beginning of our busy season, a balls to the wall situation, and I had about an hour's worth of work to do today. I just can't understand how we threw it all away for someone who's been such a famously, notoriously, sleazy loser for so long. Every bit of that last sentence. I'm 45 and grew up reading Mad magazine and cracked making endless fun of him. Then when I was a little older, read my parents' spy magazines that talked about what a sleazy, terrible businessman he was. If I knew that stuff as a kid in the Texas suburbs, how could he have so much support? It's baffling. Answered it in your second sentence. You grew up reading. You probably wanted to. You're assuming they did, too. They didn't, or if they did, it was the Bible and they only took from that what they were told to. Every day I wake up and wish more billionaires actually face consequences for their actions instead of the middle and lower class dealing with it. I'd also wish that when I see Trump stickers on a vehicle, it wasn't driven by some ancient craggedy ass old dude who likely won't live to see the long-term ramifications of their vote. A Trump sticker means that it's legal to siphon gas from that vehicle. Someone forgot to put me on the Signal chat, so I could have been told to sell yesterday. I mean, if you didn't think his Liberation Day was ending with a stock market crash. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody's only concerned about the money we lost today, and that's a real concern. But the market can change over time. What Trump did today was even worse than destroying our economy. He solidified our country's status as a worldwide bully. While the economy may rebound over time, or not, who knows? Our relations with the rest of the world will not. They will look elsewhere for more reliable trade partners, allies, and leadership, and we will never regain the measure of respect that our country once had. The impact of this man's egotistical and short-sighted leadership will resonate for generations to come. Another problem you have is so many Americans seem to think this will be over when Trump ends his term, provided he doesn't make himself El Presidente for life. It's only shown to other countries there is a strong voter base that could make this happen again in the future, or at least influence policy and direction even in a non-Trump government. That's why it will take decades to fix. It'll take longer to fix than the country can survive in permanent isolation. We're fucked. Obviously bad, not to mention even if these tariffs are taken off the table, it's already done permanent damage to the idea that America is a stable trading partner. Imagine thinking that this will inspire CEOs to build US-based plants. They are all just going to wait this out. Capital investments like that take longer to plan than this moron will be in office. CEOs are just going to go into hibernation mode, decrease sales projections, begin mass layoffs, conserve capital until he's gone. I'm much too poor to even understand how that would affect me. It's quite simple, actually. The tariffs will drive up prices in the US for groceries, cars, healthcare, and pretty much everything you need to live. If you think you're poor now, prepare to be very poor. Donald did that. My plan of not saving for retirement and instead traveling the world in my 20s and early 30s due to a foreboding belief that the world will become dramatically unstable thanks to bad politics or the environment collapsing is currently paying off. My mentality as well, LMAO. I'm concerned, in my late 40s, grad school, white collar, but I volunteer at a local org with a lot of people in their 20s, and they're absolutely thrilled, was on a 4-hour van ride with 8 young people from all walks of life this weekend. In addition to the stock market, they also hope home prices crash, etc. And many would rather get into a high-paying union trade than earn a master's degree. It was eye-opening to say the least. My generation was basically, get as much formal education as possible, which will lead to the most hard-to-get jobs, which will lead to higher paychecks. That's not true or believed for many young people today. If nothing else, at least young people are more aware about taking on massive loads of student debt compared to earlier generations. Young people seem to want asset prices to crash since they don't own many assets, but they also have the time and energy to do jobs that people my age and older are too tired, unable, unwilling to do, like working high-paying HVAC in Phoenix. They also have arguably the most important resource. Time. I think it's important to remind oneself that US society isn't a monolith, and what 20s YOS want, hope for is very different from what 30-40ths, 60 YOS want. Personally, I see more worldview gaps between ages, generations and sex, gender nowadays than race. I say that as a POC. Having said all of this, I think what young people don't realize is that a crash in asset prices, especially housing, will just lead to corporations, high net worth individuals who can secure cheap debt buying up more of the country's housing stock, since many people who want to buy homes during a crash will be unemployed, unable to afford to buy them. My advice to some of them was just to work, network, and save while they're young. Networking is especially important nowadays, more so than good grades from school or a second major. If the WH admin would put more regulations over mortgage deductions for second homes, foreigners without green cards buying SFH, etc., it'd be all for that. But the real estate, realtor, construction lobby is strong and has its tentacles all over both parties. Regardless, the stock market should be a long-term investment vehicle based on risk-reward tolerance, not a day-trading roulette table subject to emotions and political seasons. I'm guilty as charged. If you're investing regularly each month long-term, then the ups and downs shouldn't make you lose your mind. When things go south, you're investing at a discount. For what it's worth, the US stock market has been a roller coaster over the past several months, as well as several years. But it's still up about 50% from 2 years ago. That's still an insane return, and I didn't trust the Trump pump that occurred from November to February as something being sustainable. Living in Southeast Asia, many of my friends here wish they had invested in US equities rather than regional equities, real estate over the past decade. Odd. I'm 22 and that is definitely not my peers' view of this all. Even if housing prices collapse, we know we still won't be able to afford it because we haven't been able to save enough, and a lot of us are barely making rent. I'm lucky enough to live at home, but unlucky enough to be chronically ill. Among that, unions are going to be attacked and possibly completely dismantled by Dump and his dumpsters, and many are likely going to lose our health care. Food will skyrocket and industries will collapse due to other countries not wanting to buy our goods. They are already picking protected public land to start drilling and mining in, and protections in our food industries is being dismantled. We are out of WHO and about to be out of NATO. The last thing anyone in my peers are thinking about is buying a house. Pleading face too busy praying another country will save us, or at least our traitor-in-chief won't put us in a world war. I'm glad those in your area are more hopeful, and I truly do hope everything isn't going to collapse, but face exhaling.